the daily commute, the vast majority of people on this bridge will be ordinary law-abiding citizens who know the difference between right and wrong and are capable of feelings and love. But not everyone.
A small number of these people can't feel emotion. They don't do remorse or empathy. On the outside, they're confident and charming, but on the inside, they're manipulative and cunning. They're a seething cauldron of madness. There's a clinical name for such people. They're called psychopaths.
Psychopaths are much more common than you would think. Psychiatrists now believe that as many as 1 in 100 people are psychopaths. But they don't have to be sadistic mass murderers. They're far more likely to be found in the upper echelons of power, the CEOs of major corporations, or generals or politicians.
To me, this is a very scary thought. Are psychopaths really running the show?
The award-winning journalist and documentary maker Jon Ronson tries to answer this question in his new book. In the Psychopath Test, Ronson journeys deep into the heart of the madness industry, examining its effect on society at large. I wanted to ask Jon a bit more about what drew him to the subject.
Jon, you spent a kind of entire career studying madness in one guise or another. The conspiracy theorists and people who hypnotise goats. And now, this new book, you're looking at the kind of heart of our society, CEOs, leaders. And I wondered why you kind of came to that.
I suppose what started going through my mind was the possibility that maybe madness was a more powerful engine than rationality in the world. That kind of the rational world was like a kind of still pond, and madness was a jagged rock thrown into it, kind of creating ripples everywhere. And then when I started looking at that, well, okay, if madness is the thing that propels people forward, then what's the most powerful sort of madness when it comes to the way society works? And psychologists and psychiatrists, pretty much all of them will say psychopathy is the madness that makes the world go around, because it's the madness that many CEOs and political and business leaders share.
Jon's book pays particular attention to the work of Dr. Robert Hare, a criminal psychologist who in the early 1970s revolutionised the study of psychopaths.
He developed this checklist called the PCLR checklist, which is basically a 20-point checklist that anatomizes the nuances of psychopathic behaviour. A lot of this, really interestingly, only manifests itself when you ask the right questions as an interviewer.
Right.
It's kind of like journalism.
Right. Jon, do you think I display any facets of being a psychopath?
Well, you know that you can have some tests done on you to see how psychopathic you are.
Right.
Me, psychopathic? I was only joking, but Jon thinks I actually have tendencies. So here we are at the Institute of Psychiatry to meet Dr. Adam Perkins, a research fellow with a finely tuned psycho radar. Adam is about to conduct a test used on murderers at Broadmoor to see how we respond to a series of pictures. The electrodes measure our eyelids' response to the images.
I'm suspicious of you. The things that these strap to your fingers give you electric shocks, right?
Yeah. These are just recording ones, they're not going to hurt at all.
So these things don't give you electric shocks?
No, they don't.
It all feels a bit unnerving. To add to our sense of anxiety, bursts of white noise are blasted into our ears. As the images appear, our blinks are recorded. Studies with psychopaths have shown their reaction to looking at pictures of fluffy kittens are the same as looking at a decapitation or hardcore porn. This flat emotional response marks them out as unusually lacking in empathy. Jon's responses are those of someone normal, if a little jumpy. Mine are erring on the side of, well, the psychopathic, actually.
So, Jacques, were you worried that you weren't appropriately disgusted by the horrific images?
I think I just responded like a cold killer to everything I saw. The pot plant, same as the mutilated body. I started blinking deliberately to try and make myself look more human.
Curious to find out what kind of psychopath I might be, I decide to take another test in Adam's nutter chamber. This time the stakes are higher. The penalty for failure is pain, and Jon's pitifully low threshold for pain means he's nipped out for a cup of tea.
Can you feel this, Jack?
Why did I agree to this? Ow!
There we go.
If I let the red ball make contact with the green, I get an electric shock on my foot. This test differentiates between criminal and corporate psychopaths. Criminal drifting psychopaths are happy for the balls to hit each other and take the shock. Corporate psychopaths will try to keep the balls separate and avoid the pain.
So Adam, what have you found out?
Your responses were fairly nonchalant.
Nonchalant?
You
I was
weren't
trying to escape.
But you weren't trying as hard as other participants try.
Really?
So I would say that tallies with your low responses on the modulated startle task.
What's frightening is that I think your tests do quite accurately portray my personality.
Well, I'm glad on one level.
But you're worried for society.
Yeah, maybe not, but perhaps your colleagues.
Right.
1% of the population are even odder than me, and some of these people have real power.
So John, do you think we live in a world run by psychopaths?
I think an awful lot of the bad things that happen in this world happen because of psychopaths. Dictatorships, corporate shenanigans, the banking crisis and so on. I think a lot of these things are initiated by psychopaths, and it's taken me a long time to kind of come to that conclusion.
Who's worse, the genuine criminal psychopath or the corporate psychopath who runs a company?
Well, people like Robert Hare would say that a serial killer will ruin the lives of a small number of individuals, whereas a corporate psychopath can remold society all wrong. So a well-placed corporate psychopath can create a vast amount of damage.
So the next time your boss leans menacingly over you, jabbing his finger in your face, have a quick look through Dr. Robert Hare's checklist. He may be a latent killer, or he might just be management material.